So hello to everyone and welcome to this webinar, which is focused on safeguarding and more specifically safeguarding in relation to the apprentice and student experience at Staffordshire University. Just so everyone's aware, my name's Ian Munton. I'm the Director of Library and Student Services at Staffordshire University. I'm also the designated lead safeguarding officer for the university, so always available when you need, and I'll talk in a little bit more detail through this presentation and webinar about how you can get hold of that information, both in the context of making contact for information when there is a serious of concern or where you require specific information. I can certainly be contacted where people have got those general concerns, queries or questions. And just so you've got it now, my email address is ian.munton@staffs.ac.uk. So we have a plan today. There are probably around about 14 slides that we're going to work through. And we're going to cover quite a bit of ground in relation to student and apprentice safeguarding. It's often the case that safeguarding is seen as being quite specific, and to some extent it is in terms of our statutory obligations, but it has far-reaching connotations, particularly in the context of the student experience with regard to our demographic of students, where our students are coming from and the interactions that we have. So we're going to work through some of that in some detail to try and understand what the context is and to see where the relevance is, both in the context of the experience our apprentices are having as students on our campus and the experience they're having when they are working with you. Often as well, people don't quite see the link between universities and safeguarding of children. The view at times can be that we're solely dealing with adults and that children are not in any way associated with universities. We know that that's not the case. Certainly we at the university see that every day. We have young people and children who are accessing our campus services and working with our people each and every day. So whether that be in relation to a placement in a school, many of our staff and our students' children being on campus, attending the nursery, school children being involved in residential activity and programs in our halls of residence, or children of students or staff members who may be put at risk due to harmful and unhealthy situations at home. In addition, we've got a duty to safeguard vulnerable adults within our community. And beyond that, we have a duty of care to provide a level of welfare and wellbeing support to our students, and in this case, our apprentices. And what I hope that you pick up from the webinar, the presentation, but also the relationship we have and your understanding of the university is that wide range of support and the vast number of individuals in this organisation who are there to help and who are there to support. Our approach is personal and personable. It is also comprehensive and holistic in the university. So our policy and procedures and our general approach to safeguarding is focused upon recognising signs, assessing risk, considering the dangers and responding appropriately. We are proactive in our approach, which is absolutely intentional as a means of reducing the risk of things happening and making clear to our community what we believe and know is right and what is wrong. As such, we work hard to ensure that our community, so students and staff, are aware of issues relating to safeguarding, be that about CSE or religious extremism or child abuse or online bullying, whatever it might be, we're in place to provide that support. And I think that that's really important for you to recognise. We would much prefer that a concern come through to us and a conversation take place, even when there is a slight sense of, well, is that problematic or not? So please take away from this that this is very much a partnership. There are people here who can have those informal conversations, but also support and take responsibility where there is a formal need to do so. This is very much a partnership. And there are responsibilities with that, aren't there? So in relation to that, you have a particular responsibility as an employer, as do we all. In this context, that is specifically to take responsibility for the apprentices' welfare in the workplace, and to also seek appropriate advice when you feel an apprentice may, for some reason, be at risk, where you have a concern. Now, to help you understand what your role is and what it what it isn't, how, who and when to contact us as a university or indeed other authorities, we've produced a guide called Keeping Apprentices Safe, which you'll see on the slide and which will have been sent through to you. If you don't have that copy, then it's very easy for you to just contact the apprenticeship support team for copies. And in the future, if you require more, then we will ensure that they are sent through to you and shared with you online. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail around the particularities of safeguarding in our context, but it covers a wide range of concerning issues, which might lead us to consider putting in place some specific support where we have a concern, and that is becoming increasingly common, quite rightly, in a university setting. That may be, for instance, where a student, an apprentice, is struggling with issues at home, where they are struggling with challenging mental health issues, and where we need to undertake and put in place a care and a support plan to ensure that actually they're in a position to continue with their study, they're able to continue with their work, and things don't get any worse. There are, though, and it's important for us to absolutely recognise this and be aware of our responsibility, serious safeguarding issues, which are included on this slide and in future slides, which relate to physical abuse, sexual abuse and neglect. These are serious concerns for us, and having some knowledge and some understanding enables us to be able to spot some of those signs in order that we can consider what care, what support and what response needs to be put in place. Now, it isn't always obvious that something is wrong. It may well be the case that an apprentice, a student, will open up. They will have the courage to have that conversation with you, and it's important at that point that you know what the appropriate referral routes are, who the key points of contact are in and outside of the university, and that you proceed with that as quickly as you can. There may be times, though, where the individual doesn't talk to you, but you spot some signs, you see a change over time, there is something of concern. And again, it's really important that you feel confident and have the information and the understanding to be able to take that forward and progress that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we progress through this presentation and webinar. So what I wanted to really get into before we talk about specific safeguarding routes and referrals was our commitment to ensuring that our students and our apprentices are supported in the context of their student experience. And this slide in particular focuses upon the importance of us being comfortable with and having the right support and services in place to assist individuals who are struggling with their mental health. Now, we take that incredibly seriously as an organisation. We expect all of our partners and employers to do the same. And things have changed over the years in terms of the stigma that's associated with mental health, in that we are seeing far more people come forward and feeling able to disclose and have conversations and access support in order that they can progress and experience all the things that we want them to experience. We all know that mental health is something that everyone has, both good and bad, in the same way that we have good and bad physical health at any one point. But it's information and awareness for you that this is a key priority for us as an organisation. And if there are any concerns, then we hope that you will feel comfortable having that conversation with your apprentice, and that you will feel able to speak to us as services about what we can put in place. We engage our students from points of open day and first contact through to induction and throughout their experience about the services that are available at the university. And apprentices to us are just students. So whether it is about disability support, whether it is about progression, whether it is about sense of wellness, or whether it's really complex mental health issues, our services in the university, student services and the student hub, are there to provide that support to students. Our apprentices have access to all of the services that other students do. There may be some restrictions, whether that be around funding, for instance, with regard to disability support. But as I keep saying, we think it's really important that you're aware that we strive to treat our apprentices as we treat all of our students. The details of how we do this are available at our web pages, and also within the guide that you will be sent through. And apprentices, as I've said, are made aware of these services throughout their student journey and their experience. So in the context of specifically around safeguarding in the employer's role, there are a number of responsibilities that you have as an employer to ensure that you are operating a safe, supporting and secure working environment. And they are listed on the slide, and I won't go through those word for word, but I think it's really important that you familiarise yourself with the training that you've undertaken and the responsibility that you know that you have. And by making sure that you consider safeguarding in all aspects of your business, then you will reduce the likelihood of issues arising, and in particular you'll increase the confidence of any employees, apprentices, our students who are impacted by harmful situations coming forward, disclosing and seeking out that help. It's certainly advised, where it is possible, that individuals are identified who can take on responsibility for safeguarding. And I guess a plea from me really is that it's important to have a point of contact who people can go and see, but it's equally important that the organisation take a responsibility, all organisations take a responsibility, in order that all members of staff feel confident, have some knowledge, and are aware of key processes and referral routes, and can spot the signs of those around them. Because that's what we all want, really, that, you know, when our friends and our colleagues and our neighbours and whoever else it is are struggling, that we can pick up on some of those cues and can have a conversation and provide some support. I want to just move on to prevent, and people will have different understandings and levels of awareness around what prevent is. The first thing to say is that it's incredibly important to us that our students and our community understand what prevent is and what the context is, and how we operate as an organisation and in a university in its context. It's likely that you've heard of prevent. It forms part of the government's contest strategy that seeks to reduce the risk of terrorism in the UK. So that's overarching. Prevent is one strand of that, and it places a duty on certain bodies, which includes universities, to have a due regard for the need to prevent people from being drawn into terrorism. At a university, that includes us ensuring, for instance, that anyone who's coming onto our campus is speaking to our students, running a community event, that we're aware of them. And that's important so we can understand the appropriateness of who they are and what they're going to say and who they're going to talk to. But it also enables us to help facilitate events that we think are important in that context, that stimulate debate and discussion amongst our students. We commit to ensuring that our staff and our students are sufficiently aware of what prevent is. For our students, for our apprentices, we talk about that through induction and enrolment, and look to embed that within programme and activity through the course. And for our staff members, it is a mandatory requirement for them to undertake training in prevent, and routine updates and information is sent out about the duty. It's important, I think, to understand that prevent is safeguarding, and knowing that and understanding that it's part of that kind of broader umbrella term of safeguarding individuals in our community can be really key. Individuals can be drawn into the process of radicalisation in all manner of ways. So in this context, vulnerability means individuals who, because of their circumstances, experiences, or state of mind at any one point, can be led towards a terrorist ideology. And that, I think, when you put it in that way, it really chimes with vulnerability, child abuse and safeguarding, doesn't it? Some of these factors might include, but it's certainly not limited to, extremist influences, people who are around them, or what's being viewed online. A serious event or a series of traumatic events that take place which cause an individual to challenge what is happening. and cause frustration and concern. There might be conflict or even rejection from family or friends, which isolates individuals and makes them more vulnerable and perhaps more likely to approach or to be approached by at-risk groups and individuals. Or it might be things like experience of poverty and as I said, social exclusion. So there are a whole raft of things. There isn't just one thing. And some of those factors, of course, do not just mean an individual is at risk, susceptible to issues around safeguarding or prevent, but it's important to understand that there often is a pattern to this. It's helpful to think about this as being, as said, another safeguarding concern, and as a consequence of that, where you have a concern, that you make contact with the university, that you talk to the safeguarding coordinator, that you talk to the prevent lead about that, in order that a decision can be reached through conversation as to whether or not that is something that needs to be addressed and progressed and referred. Now, British values are equally important to us, and we ask our apprentices to respect, acknowledge and uphold these. We do it, as I've said, with most things throughout their time with us. So from discussions that we have during their induction into the programme through to that embedded activity within curriculum. And it's clear on the slide there that these values are around democracy, the rule of law, individual liberty, respect and tolerance of different faiths and beliefs. And they are all very important values which help us in fostering a strong sense of connection and community within our programmes and across our campuses at Staffordshire University. We want our students, our apprentices, to look out for their friends. We want them to be respectful of different views and differences and similarities. We want to push them as much as we can, and we want them to be respectful of one another. So in terms of your role, it's important that you demonstrate, we believe, a similar clear commitment to these values, which we would look at and expect any organisation or setting to do. And we know that you will set high standards and expect high standards from your employees, your apprentices. And that all makes really good sense and helps ensure that those studying with us and working with you look out for one another, that they are tolerant, that they respect difference, and that I can't repeat enough. You know, moving to a university setting, probably the most diverse spaces that you can see. Lots of students, employees, etc., who will come through university campus and be really taken aback by the diversity and difference. And you know, our responsibility is to ensure that actually that is embraced and that becomes a part of who we are. And we think it's really important, you know, to focus on online activity, because it's become just part of who we are and part of what our organisations are. As we know, most things that we do these days play out online. The number of hours that young people and all people spend online has just grown exponentially, and we kind of talk and joke really about people not engaging with one another anymore because they are dealing in the virtual. You know, whether that be formal discussions also within a learning platform, which is hugely positive, or some of those more informal spaces online which are accessible 24/7, which can be positive, but which also can be difficult. For our students and our apprentices, we work hard to ensure, one, that they understand what their digital footprint is. I think that's really important. What we perhaps say when we are younger, we may regret when we are older, and what we say in one setting, we wouldn't want to be shared in another. And so we work very hard to ensure that our students and our apprentices understand that, you know, they need to think carefully about what they are saying and what they are sharing and the points that they are making online. And you may have very particular views that you're uncomfortable seeing, and we know that online lots of information is freely accessible for all. So we work with our students to talk about security and respect online, and to ensure that, you know, when they have left us, when they are seeking work, when they are in the world of work, that they can look back and have no regrets about that. We also reinforce, importantly, how our students and apprentices can stay safe online, both in terms of information and data that relates to them, that is important to them, but also in the context of trolling, bullying, harmful behaviours. And we have robust and sound policies and procedures in place to address that when we feel it is appropriate in the university, but also to refer that into the criminal space and the police, where we have serious concerns about that. And I think that that is an important aspect of safeguarding, that there is, there is absolute interconnection between the physical world and the digital world now, which is a complicating and vastly little understood area these days, but which takes up a huge amount of time and space in our experiences and that of the police. You have a role to play, as we all do, and I think, in particular, that is around partnership and communication. If you have a concern, just as if you have a concern with regard to the comments that somebody is making in the office or in the staff room, then we would want you to be speaking with us. We want to work in partnership and we want to have that conversation. At that stage, we can decide how we most appropriately deal with this matter. So in a university, if there is a concern, we would be talking discreetly about that. And in the context of apprentices, it's very important that we open up that circle of confidentiality to ensure that we are dealing with things appropriately and robustly, and of course sensitively for all those involved. When we take into context then safeguarding issues around radicalisation, concerns about mental health and its impact, what plays out between the physical and the digital world, it's important that you are vigilant to some extent, that it doesn't take over, but actually you are sufficiently close enough to your apprentices, to your employees, just as we are with our students and apprentices. So hopefully you can pick up concerns and that you know then how to address those. It is not always easy to spot the signs, and there are lots that are here included on this slide, and there are many more. And some of these in isolation don't necessarily mean that there is huge risk involved, but there could be. And when you start to add these together, it is important that we take our responsibility seriously, have open and honest conversations, and where it is necessary, address these more formally. You may be approached and there may be conversations that you are able to have and want to have about all manner of issues on this slide and beyond, whether that's around excessive alcohol consumption and its impact, family issues, self-harm, whether you see individuals withdrawing from their activities or whatever else it might be. There is an incumbent responsibility on us all to pick that up. A key sign absolutely is where you've seen a change over time. An individual's appearance changes, their hygiene, their political views. In of itself, that may not be a serious concern, but act on your instinct if you have real concerns. Know that at the university, we've got individuals and services and people like me who are here to have that conversation and to decide how best we might respond to that, what care and support we can put in place for that student, but where there is a real concern, what mechanism or procedure we need to move through. The signs, as I've said, are not exhaustive, but they can be a red flag, and they do therefore require your attention, your concern, and your response. So you'll see here some information about those points of contact in the university and beyond when we think about serious safeguarding matters. No one will judge you should you contact us. There is no wrong answer in any of this. This is a relationship, it is a partnership. As you can see on the slide, I'm the lead safeguarding officer. My telephone number is there, my email address is there. You've also got the contact details for the safeguarding referral team in the context of safeguarding children, you are absolutely able to make contact with us to have that conversation beforehand. It is important to recognise that the appropriate safeguarding authority relates to the county or the space they're in, which is where that child or that vulnerable adult is located. Please remember that our relationship is here for a reason, and you can contact me and us at any point. Now, that was a relatively short tour through student safeguarding and safeguarding for apprentices. I hope that you've found that to be valuable in some way. The key for me, and I've reiterated this point I think throughout, is that you do take this seriously, that you know that we're here and that we do work in partnership. Our students absolutely deserve for us to always be alert and always be aware. Often our students are looking out for somebody that they can open up to and have a conversation with. It is not common for things to go wrong. However, it is absolutely important that our policies, our procedures and our working practices are in place to ensure that those working and studying within our communities are always protected and that they are always safeguarded. Thank you very much.